Simpsons is far from being the only cartoon out there that has predicted the future. Family Guy predicted the Titan submarine explosion, Paul Walker's death, the fall of Brett Ratner, and a lot more. So let's see, out of all of those, what gets you the most? Much like his character Brian O'Connor from the Fast and Furious films, actor Paul Walker was an avid car enthusiast. As Brian, an undercover cop whose assignment to break up illegal LA street racing gangs ultimately endears him to the scene, Walker helped to transform car culture. He played other roles in his on-screen career, of course, some arguably better developed and grittier than O'Connor was, but he will always be best known for the Fast and Furious films. However, sadly, Walker was tragically killed in a high-speed car accident on November 30th of 2013. In an eerie coincidence, early that week, Brian Griffin of Family Guy also died in a vehicular-related accident. Life of Brian is the 6th episode of the 12th season and the 216th overall episode of the series, which aired in Fox in the US on November 24th. 2013. What happens? Well, Brian and Stewie flee a band of hostile folks in a Jeep. Stewie finds his return pad destroyed, decides to ask the alternative timeline Stewie for help. Going to the equivalent of their house, they find a new time machine and pad, then return to another place. As soon as their original counterparts leave, they take back the weapons from the hostiles and return to the proper time. Tired of all these close calls, Stewie destroys his time machine at the junkyard. While there, Stewie and Brian find a street hockey net and take it home, and the first time they set it up, Brian is hit and critically injured by an out-of-control driver. The Griffins learn that Brian's injuries are fatal. The family says their goodbyes. Before he dies, Brian expresses his love for the family. Now a month later, the Griffin family still misses Brian dearly. Lois decides the best way for them to recover is to get a new dog. And Peter chooses an Italian smooth-talking dog named Vinny at the pet shop. Both Brians meeting their fate in the same week struck several Family Guy fans as rather spooky. And while Brian Griffin ultimately came back because of time travel and who knows what else, all that could be done for Walker were some fitting and emotional tributes, both in Furious 7 and on Family Guy. But it's just weird. The next episode we're going to cover is from season 14, episode 18, titled The New Adventures of Old Tom. So when Peter wears Lois's underwear in one of his stunts, she makes the family go to the mall so she can get more. And when she's ready to go, Peter's delays result in him being left behind. When the mall closes, he decides to ride the train that he was denied a ride on earlier, but as he loses control of it, they shut off the lights, leaving him riding it throughout the night. The next day, the news picks up the story of Peter's ordeal, and the wives are attracted to Dallas Portland, the new reporter at the news station. They gather to watch as a group, leaving Peter alone. He complains at the drunken clam to Jerome and finds company in a depressed Tom Tucker, who hates a new guy because, well, he's being groomed to replace him. Peter suggests they work together to improve Tom's image as a young guy. They try to make a GoPro skate video, but that ends when Peter's mauled by a bear. And then Peter joins Lois to watch the newly made over Tom, but his act fails when he tries to give himself a tattoo near his eye during the broadcast and is subsequently fired. Lois is upset with Peter and he points out her infatuation with Dallas, although she still insists on him trying to make it up to Tom. So Peter visits Tom at the apartment, but his help is rejected. Peter exits to see Tom standing on the rooftop preparing to jump, so Peter rushes to the rooftop and Dallas arrives right behind him to cover the death. However, Peter insists that he is the one who plans on jumping and gives Tom the interview, apologizing in the process. Tom talks him out of it, but ends up falling off himself when Peter is startled by a pigeon of all things, luckily landing on other people. Why does this have to do with real life? So when Peter inadvertently ruins Tom's career, he compares the anchor's fall from grace to Charlie Rose. A cutaway implies that Rose is doing the news after drinking heavily the night before. So who is Charlie Rose? Well, at the time he was an American journalist and talk show host. From 1991 to 2017, he was the host and executive producer of the talk show Charlie Rose. Yeah. He also co-anchored CBS This Morning from 2012 to 2017 alongside Gayle King and Norah O'Donnell. Rose formerly substituted for the anchor of the CBS Evening News, and in 2012, Rose co-hosted the revived Person to Person series. So notice how a lot of these end in 2017? Yeah, you're gonna find out why in a moment. So little did the Family Guy writers know that Rose would fall much further than reading the news hungover. In 2017, a year after the episode aired, Rose was fired from both CBS and PBS after multiple allegations of harassment going back decades. 8 women who were employees of or aspired to work for Rose accused him of various acts of misconduct. We're talking harassment, groping, lewdness. The accusations, which were made in a report in the Washington Post, dealt with conduct from the 90s to 2011. It's very long. So the show got the fall from grace right, even if how Rose fell differed from their version. With a title like The Wolf of Wall Street, you might be expecting this next entry to have predicted Leo DiCaprio in the hit movie, but we're going in an entirely different direction. It's the 15th episode of season 16, airing on April 8th of 2018, my mom's birthday. Brian and Stewie use a submersible to visit James Cameron on the Titanic with the intention of pantsing him. If you don't know who Cameron Cameron is he famously directed the Titanic movie and has been on more than 30 trips down to the site of the sunken ship. So Brian and Stewie were like, now that we're eccentric rich guys, we're going to go down 20,000 feet and pants James Cameron while he's, exploring the Titanic. They travel down in a yellow sub and see the cartoon version of Cameron shining a big torch on the wreckage and taking photos. Stewie attempts to sneak up behind the film director and attempts to use the robotic arms on his transport to pants Cameron. However, the giant metal claws end up ripping the cartoon Cameron into two pieces, and in gory scenes, his guts start floating everywhere. Stewie and Brian are both mortified as sharks devour the rest of the fictionalized director, and they slowly rise back up to the surface. So, anybody remember what happened last year? When 5 men tragically lost their lives in OceanGate's Titan submersible, which was being used to take tourists down 12,500 feet to the Titanic? Yeah, this was a future we didn't want to see predicted. There was initially believed to be a race against time to save the men before they ran out of oxygen, but it was later revealed that the vessel imploded due to the increased pressure at those depths. And now, and just this past week in the news, another US billionaire is launching a new submarine project to prove that the Titanic wreck site can be explored safely. Sure, that's totally gonna go well. Good luck going kaboom, my dude. Turban Cowboy is the 15th episode of the 11th season, and it's a heck of a doozy. It aired on Fox in the United States on March 17th of 2013, and remember that date, folks. The episode revolves around Peter befriending a new man named Mahmoud after getting injured in a skydiving accident. Their friendship comes to an abrupt end when Mahmoud is revealed to be a radical criminal. On April 15th of 2013, the Boston Marathon suffered an attack by 2 brothers whose homemade explosives killed 3 and injured hundreds. It was a horrific event that's still shocking years later. However, it's made even more shocking by the fact that Family Guy seemed to foreshadow the event in a cutaway. Peter mentioned winning a marathon, and a flashback shows him driving through the runners to win the Boston Marathon. It's already a dark joke, but with hindsight and the fact that the other parts of the episode see Peter unwittingly become a criminal, the sight of him causing mass death at that specific city's marathon is kinda grim. For the episode to have aired less than a month before the awful event, wild. And finally for today, Lego My Mego is the 20th episode in the 10th season, and in this episode, Meg travels to Paris with her friend Ruth after being treated badly in school. But her exciting adventure comes to a halt when she gets kidnapped. Brian and Stewie embark on an action-packed mission to find her before it's too late. Well, in 2017, what happened? Director and producer Brett Ratner was accused by half a dozen women of harassment and being harmed. While his legal battle over one incident ended without a public resolution, he's been out of work in Hollywood for years, even though he's been trying to come back. Family Guy, as it turns out, knew the writing was on the wall years earlier. So in this episode of the show, parodying the movie Taken, Stewie goes undercover as a girl being bid on by various wealthy men. One of these? Brett Ratner. Aye, that's not great. And that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident ookie spooky girly, and see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.